It is incredibly warm in here because there are children screaming and shouting and playing outside, so if I keep the window opener than it is because it's cracked like a little bit, yeah, you can hear them. Anyway, today I'm gonna go through a list of TV shows that I used to watch and then stopped watching for one reason or another. I don't know, I've just watched a lot of TV shows in my time, so I just thought it would be cool to see how many I've just fucked off on. I also have a list of TV shows that are kind of basically amount to, I stopped watching this, but I'll probably get around to watching it at some point again. So, disclaimer for this list, I don't hate all of these shows. I don't hate the people who are involved with them. I don't hate them kind of needlessly. I just stopped watching them because of one reason or another that I'll just mention as I go through the list. Some I have a lot of vendettas against, Jesus Christ. I stopped watching The Flash about halfway through season 3. And that's not, I think season 3 had ended by the time that I had gotten through halfway through season 3. But personally, I didn't like where the narrative was going. I'm, unpopular opinion, but I'm not a fan of West Allen. I don't know, something about it just feels off to me. I think it's just because, like, it's not incest, and it's not even pseudo-incest, but it's as close to pseudo-incest as it can get without it actually being pseudo-incest, in my opinion. That it just makes me feel a bit weird to watch it, given that, like, they were raised together and their dad, well, both of them have the same father figure and raised the two of them. It just feels uncomfortable to me. I love Cisco. I love some of the supporting cast. I love the characters. I just don't like a lot of the relationships or where most of the narrative was going when I watched it. I might go back to it, but given that it's on this list, that is wishful thinking. Number 2, Supernatural. Oh, Supernatural. I watched the first, I want to say, full 8 seasons of Supernatural in about 2 months instead of studying for my summer exams in second year, so that would have been 2014. And I kept watching it, and I watched halfway through season 11, knowing completely that beyond maybe season 9, halfway through season 9, okay, no, to be fair, like season 8's finale, everything after that is shit. And I have a lot of respect for some of the actors in the show, because some of their actors are just awful. Like Kim Rhodes and Brianna Bookmaster, I think. I love those two women very dearly. Catherine Newton is lovely. Some of the supporting cast, or the kind of revolving door cast, are amazing and kind and sweet and lovely. It's just a lot of other people I don't like. Don't like the narrative, don't like how they treat Cass. It's funny because I think that out of all these shows there will always be one character that I care for a significant amount. In The Flash it is Cisco, and in Supernatural it is Castiel. And I love Castiel to this day, but I cannot bring myself to watch the show for one character who is continuously being fucked over and mischaracterized. I have a lot of opinions about Supernatural, Jesus Christ. It's just, it just makes me really mad. Another one to make me really mad, number 3, is Sherlock. I will never watch Sherlock again. In the start of January PMS, there are clips of me, Aaron and Kelly watching the Sherlock finale of season 4 and being very disappointed that we had in fact been queerbaited the whole time. I dislike how the writers handled the backlash. I dislike how they treated the fans. I just liked all of season 4. The only one was the Lying Detective, the middle episode. That was amazing. I thought that was fantastic, but the first and the third episode were just such a fucking mess of a narrative. It's literally like I was watching fanfiction. Bad fanfiction, because as someone who reads a significant amount of fanfiction, there's a lot of good fanfiction out there. That was bad fanfiction. That was cursed child level of bad fanfiction that made it to production, you know? And I made a whole video about my opinions on The Cursed Child that are as messy as this one. is going to be. So I'll leave that somewhere, but it felt the exact same in that the narrative just, it just did what it wanted. It didn't care about the setup, it didn't care about the plausibility, it didn't care about, it just felt so fucking off. Plus the fact that Mary just gets killed for no fucking reason, and the fact that just for a show that was so carefully orchestrated for the first 1.5 seasons, no, first 2.5 seasons, it's just a fucking nightmare. It's a fucking train wreck. And I'm being very mean about it because it's still something that I hold very dearly, because I met a lot of wonderful people when I first started watching Sherlock, and TJLC was an amazing series, and I feel so bad for Rebecca even to this day that they got so shafted by the writers that I can't be any sort of fucking like happy with it. And if there is a season 5 and I watch it, it will be with a lot of shame, or it will be with like morbid curiosity where I want to just hurt myself again. So number 4 is Glee. I had a very sudden and very intense Glee phase that ended quite abruptly, I'd say. It was in a period of my life that I do not wish to revisit, and I think in a weird way, Glee will always kind of be tainted by where I was in that point in my life and how I used it to cope for many things that I was going through. So I can't watch it again without it being kind of ruined. Like, it's always going to be tainted by what was happening to me, how I felt, how awful I felt at that time, how inescapable the things I felt were from one reason or another. So it's really hard to watch again, even if I can watch clips and snippets and I feel good and that like initial high comes back, but I can't sit through a whole episode or watch long periods because it just brings me right back to where I was in that mindset and the experiences that I do not wish to go back to because of how not great they were. And also Glee is like such a fucking mess. I think it's one of those shows that you can watch for how bad it is at times, but then you get attached to the characters, so it's just I think there is a reoccurring theme here. The Netflix Marvel shows is next, and this is more general, but I have a list of shows that I intend to go back to at some point, and some of them have made it onto both lists because there are some shows that I do kind of want to go back to even if I don't. So I've watched the first 2 seasons of Daredevil, and I've watched season 1 of Jessica Jones. I haven't watched Luke Cage, I haven't watched Iron Fist, and I do not intend to, and I haven't watched The Defenders, and I haven't watched Jessica Jones season 2, and I want to go back to them because I, as someone who has dipped in and out of Marvel in different capacities with different intentions for the last 4 years, I care about these characters very much. It's just that the MCU is so messy and there's so much content that it can be very overwhelming to go from me being obsessed with Bruce Banner and me being very loyal to Captain America to be down back into Daredevil. And I don't think it's a matter of like ranking. It's like, oh well, Bruce and Captain are the Avengers, they're the big heroes, and Daredevil is the small street heroes. It's not that, it's I feel like there's such a distance between them and the worlds that they live in, even though it's all the same world, which I think is an effective thing that they've done with the filmmaking, that like there are parts of my life that feel so removed from other parts of the world that I think that's really interesting that they've done that. But sometimes it's really hard to go back when I'm in a Marvel phase. I can't just hop between Sakaar and the streets of Hell's Kitchen. It's really hard. If my brain just doesn't take it. Shadowhunters. I really love Shadowhunters. I think that it has such a wealth of amazing LGBT characters. I think their narratives that I have watched who have been very tight. I think that the way they've displayed things, the kind of way they've chosen to take the stories compared to the original source material, which I have a small grasp of, is amazing. Considering like the problems people have with the source material and how the show dealt with them and changed them to make it work, I think is brilliant. I think that it's a masterful piece of adaptation. However, I watched the first couple of episodes of season 3, and then we found out that Jace was the owl, and I just went, fuck off, no, and then I stopped watching it. So like, I might go back to it. Let's be real. The only thing that's keeping me there, really, is Alec and Magnus. Because Lord fucking knows I am loyal to my gays until the day that I can't be anymore. Until the cons are too much and I have to give up. But, if I go back, it will be for Alec and Magnus. Because I love them. They are such wonderful characters with such depth and a kind of, they're so well written, but everyone else is just gotten to the point where they're on my nerves, or if I like them, they're not in the show enough to compensate. I say this, and I think tomorrow or sometime this, yeah, it's 27th, tomorrow, the next season of Orange is the New Black comes out, and I gave up on that show. See, I really liked, I don't even know at what point I stopped watching it, because I just don't, because it's all in one, it doesn't have a sliding time scale the way, it doesn't have a gap time scale the way something like Criminal Minds does, in that, or Brooklyn Nine-Nine, it resolves in May and it comes back in September and you've missed 3 months. Orange is the New Black all happens consecutively, which to me is really hard to remember which happened when. And it's similar to Supernatural, but not Supernatural, it's similar to Shadowhunters, but I think that there's so fewer stories going on in Shadowhunters that it's not as hard. But because Orange is the New Black happens consecutively, like the minute season 1 ends, season 2 begins, like there's not a lot of time missing, which I like in some shows, but because there's so many stories going on, it's really hard to grasp when anything happened, for like when I haven't watched it in a long time. But I got to the end of the season where Pusey dies, right? And I was a couple of episodes out and someone spoiled it on me, so I stopped watching it, because then I was just like, no, I don't care. I don't like Piper. I don't like whatever Piper's girlfriend. The only character I actually give a shit about are Sophia and Pusey. And then that's it. And then Pusey is gone. And like, Laverne Cox, I love you very dearly, but I'm not staying in an ensemble cast for one character story. I just don't want to touch that if you're going to kill off one of the only black lesbians, if not the only black lesbian in the show. There's a lot of criticism, and I know that they picked it up in later seasons and talked about it and made a point of like, this is what happens to black lesbians, especially in prison, and blah, like, but I don't want that. You can keep it. So this is another one that is kind of on both of my I might watch it again lists. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I really like most of the characters. I really think that the premise is really interesting. I liked a lot of the episodes that I watched, but the pace is a little bit slow for me. And I think that's such a small thing to give up on the show for, which is why I haven't actually properly given up. It's just, when I had so many shows going at the point that I started watching Buffy, and I had so much of a workload for school, Buffy didn't take priority. So I actually do intend to go back to Buffy. It just may be a very long time before I do. And I think that if I go back to any of these shows, some of them I could, some of them I won't, and if I do, then I'm ashamed of myself. I think some of them do have potentials to be coming back to. It's just that the way their narrative was being laid out doesn't take priority over other shows plus whatever's going on in my life at that time. I love consuming stories so much. Writing and reading and consuming stories is like, I am a storyteller and I am a reader, and I just love stories so much that I consume so many that at some point I have to figure out where I'm supposed to be prioritizing that part of my experience of life with the stuff that I actually have to get done. Because if I watched all of my shows that I wanted to get watched every week, then I wouldn't get anything else done. And I need to figure out, I need to prioritize what I'm watching and what I'm doing and what I'm consuming so I can get the rest of my life done. Like, before I started filming this video, I was reading lots of fan fiction, and I've started watching shows again that I gave up on. I've watched like 8 episodes of Criminal Minds in the last 2 days, and I love Criminal Minds. I skipped most of season 12 though because Spencer Reid, my baby, I love you. That's an episode, that's something I shouldn't be getting into right here. Anyway, that's all the TV shows that I don't watch anymore, that I care to remember. Thank you so much for watching this video. It was a mess, and if you trucked all the way through, you are the real MVP. I hope you had a fantastic day and an awesome week and a fantastic veju, and hopefully I will see you tomorrow, and goodbye.